Private investigators do a lot of surveillance. For many PIs, that is all they do, surveillance, day in and day out. When I got started as a PI back in 2008, that was me, surveillance, every single day, 6 to 7 days a week. And sometimes I was doing 2 surveillance cases a day, and my company still does a lot of surveillance to this day. But how do private investigators do surveillance? What tactics do private investigators use to do surveillance? That is the big question we will discuss in this video. The very first thing most PIs do when they get a new surveillance case is research. Yep, the investigation does not start with sitting in a car outside a house and watching. It starts with the PI sitting at a computer on the internet researching their subject. That research usually starts out with a few searches in those super secret PI databases like TLO, IRB, IDI, LexisNexis, and others. These databases contain tons of information on all of us, to include basic things like addresses and phone numbers, both past and present. But they also include things like vehicle registrations, past and present, to include license plate numbers. And they will have criminal data about a subject, civil court information, bankruptcy information, liens on properties, property ownership, employment data, relatives and known associates, dates of birth, social security numbers, aliases, and the list goes on and on. These databases are a true treasure trove of information for a PI, but it is usually only the first part of an investigation for most PIs.
This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today.
After running the subject in all of their super secret databases and reviewing all of the data in those reports, the PI will usually then do more research. Yep, there is a lot of research to be done. Next is what is commonly referred to as an OSINT, or open source intelligence investigation. These open sources are found primarily on the internet through special internet queries, but often they consist of other areas of open source data such as county court records, police records, library data, and other online databases besides those super secret databases. Some of those other online databases are places like True People Search, or TPS, Pacer, Public Access to Court Electronic Records, State Court Records, and others. And then they hit the social media sites. Now, some of the social media site work may have already been done for them, as those super secret database sites often provide tidbits of information such as email and social media accounts for subjects. But that data provided is limited, and just like all of the other data provided by all of the databases a PI uses, it all must be verified. That is a huge secret about these databases that PIs use. It is not always accurate. It can have errors in the data, omit or only have part of the data, or be completely wrong about some things, so it must be verified. After all of the research has been completed, after the private investigator has compiled a list of the necessary information they need on the subject, it is now time to prepare for the surveillance. I usually start this part by making a cover sheet for my investigation. My cover sheet will have the basic information on the subject, like name, date of birth, age, the address, phone number, a photo ID, known vehicles, employment status, and the case summary or objective, plus any other pertinent information I may need while out on surveillance. I also like to leave plenty of white space on the cover sheet so I can jot down quick notes while out on surveillance. The next step I will usually do then is to conduct a pre-surveillance or spot check on the location where I will be doing surveillance. During pre-surveillance, I usually take along all of my regular surveillance gear just in case I see my subject and get the opportunity to grab some video of them, but also to document the surrounding area, vehicles, potential stationary positions, and other important details. Next, I will schedule the surveillance. I do this again based on the information I have on my subject combined with a request from the client. Many times, clients request specific dates or times, and for those cases, you need to go out when they ask. But sometimes it is up to the PI to schedule the investigation as they see fit. If I know my subject is a night person, well, starting at 6 a.m. doesn't make a lot of sense. But most surveillance does start in the early morning hours, especially for injury-related cases like workers' comp, slip and fall, and personal injury. These are started early in the morning for several reasons. One is so the PI can get out there and use the cover of darkness to set up stationary surveillance. Another reason for an early morning surveillance start time is in case the subject is working, they can follow them to work. There is nothing worse than showing up on a surveillance job and seeing no vehicles, no lights on, no signs of life, and wondering, has my subject already left? The first thing to do when a PI is on scene is to document what they see. This is usually done with written or voice recorded notes, but also on video or with a quick photo of everything. I will usually use my video camera to videotape the residence or site that I am surveilling as well. I pan the entire neighborhood and zoom in on vehicles, license plates, and the addresses for the subject residence. I also have dash cams I use in both my front and my rear windows to help document everything when I arrive, as well when I do my pre-surveillance. But that video is not easily accessible to review while conducting surveillance, so it does have its limits. Sometimes I will go on foot surveillance upon arrival too. This gives me a good layout of the area, a way to see what my vehicle looks like in its stationary position, and I can verify license plates that are not easily viewable from my vehicle. Then I black out inside my vehicle. I use black foam core cutouts that fit in my side windows, a windshield sunscreen in the front window, and a black cloth over a clothes hanger in the back of my vehicle. This literally puts me inside a black box that no one can see inside. Well, if I ensure I limit the amount of light inside the vehicle, that is. If you are blacked out and you are running a laptop computer or have your phone on all the time, people will see that light coming out the cracks of the blackout areas. I always have a few small cutouts in the corners of my blackouts too, so I can watch out and shoot video out of them if needed. One of the biggest enemies of a PI while on surveillance is boredom. It is very easy to let boredom set in, given the long hours sitting inside a car, staring at a door, waiting for something to happen. When you first get out on surveillance, the adrenaline is pumping, your heart is racing, you are watching for anything and everything. The neighbors will go active as you start seeing lights turning on, vehicles being remote started, people leaving for work, and kids going to school. Then it usually all settles down, gets quiet, and starts to get quite boring. This is where you have to be careful. Don't be playing video games on your phone, tablet, or laptop. Don't be working on reports and emails. Don't allow yourself to become distracted from the task at hand, and that is watching that house, watching that door, waiting for your subject to go active. I have seen so much video from PIs in the past where all they got was a few seconds as the subject entered a vehicle or walked back into the residence, or worse, driving away. This is usually a good sign of a PI letting boredom set in and allowing themselves to be distracted and not being able to get the video, the money shot when the opportunity arose. Another trick I use is a DC to AC power converter box. You know, one of those jumper boxes for cars. Most have a DC to AC converter and a couple of USB ports. I use this to leave my camera plugged in so it's always charged and powered on, as well to keep my cell phone, spy cams, and other accessories charged. This way I do not take the chances of draining my car's battery while I am out there on surveillance. Now, if you want more details on my surveillance equipment, you can check it all out at howtobeapi.com. If you want more information on conducting surveillance, then check out this video right here.